It was a cloudy day in September 2014 in the city of Hong Kong when a protest known as the Umbrella Movement was going on. My creation started when one of the protestants who didn't show his face decided to stick a post-it in which he wrote, "Why are we here?"
My name is Badiou Cao. I am a Chinese political cartoonist, artist, and right activist based in Australia. I am regarded as one of China's most prolific and well-known political cartoonists, and the reason why I use pen name is to protect my identity. On the 26th September 2014, I was 28 years old, and that day I had an idea that determined my fate. I've been the first human being that stuck a post-it on the Lennon Wall of Hong Kong. Why are we here? This was the sentence written on the post-it. I decided to do it because I thought it was a non-violent way to protest against the government and to express my own ideas without hurting anybody and committing acts of vandalism.
Many other Protestants found this way of expressing their idea in a non-violent way very useful. They started creating me with a composition of post-it on an outdoor staircase leading to the Hong Kong government headquarters. The guy, I didn't know the identity, was inspired by my beloved cousin known as Lennon Wall, that was born in Prague in the 1960s. And so I was baptized with the name of Lennon Wall. We both evoked Lennon's common themes of peace, love, and democracy, and we became a location for community-generated protest art.
On my post-it I wrote, "Why are we here?" The answer was obvious. My intention, as well as the one of all other protest participants, was to raise our voice and obtain more democracy from a highly prohibitionist government that censors anything.
But why did this happen? This is all down to its history. In 1842, Hong Kong was ceded to the British after the First Opium War. And so, Hong Kong had been an English colony since 1997, when Great Britain and its Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher returned it to China after over 150 years of rule. And for 50 years, Hong Kong was to be governed as one country, two systems. From that moment, it became a special administrative region of China, with its own passport, mini-constitution known as the Basic Law. However, Hong Kong residents cannot elect their own leaders, the chief executives, that are elected by a member committee in Beijing. That's because the Hong Kongers claim that Beijing reached an agreement to grant them fuller democracy by giving them open elections by 2017 and the true universal suffrage. It was the 26th of September 2014 when a group of activists occupied the major streets of Hong Kong. The Umbrella Movement began. Tens of thousands of Hong Kong residents, mostly young but also old, rich and poor, peacefully stand in major streets across the city because they wanted freedoms, personal safeties and the rule of laws. The protest lasted 80 days.
I was born in 1986 and raised in urban Shanghai. I had no formal training in art when in China, and I studied law at the East China University of Political Science and Law, where my roommates and I accidentally watched the documentary The Gate of Heavenly Peace that changed my life. That was the moment I realized I would have had to fight to raise my voice. It was a 1995 documentary about the Tiananmen Square protests of 1989. On the 4th of May, almost 100,000 people walked across Beijing street, claiming more media freedom and an open dialogue between parties' authorities. This happened after Hu Yaobang's death, General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party and popular among reformers. Talking about these protests is a taboo in China, even though on the web, newspapers and documentary movies we can find evidences and images of what happened. Many documents about it have been hidden by the Chinese Communist Party. Anyway, after watching that documentary, I was disillusioned with China, so in 2009 I moved to Australia to study, where I worked as a kindergarten teacher for many years, and there I also started to work on my drawings that you can see in the background.
In months of anti-government protests in Hong Kong, citizens and activists made use of the urban environment. I inspired them, and they started creating composition of post-it and other creative displays around the city. They were colorful mosaic of post-it called Lennon Walls, and they sprang up on buildings, walkways, bridges, underpasses and storefronts. We became a symbol in the umbrella movement.
In 2014 I came back to China, but only for taking part in the umbrella movement. Then I definitely came back to Australia. I've always been drawing anonymously political cartoons, just like Bansky, and at any public event I used to wear a colorful mask, just like this. The drawing I realized and it became a symbol of Hong Kong's protest has been obviously removed from the web. It showed the Chinese President Xi Jinping and the Chief Executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, with a fully colored post-it bag. I also depicted General Secretary Xi being greeted by a cast of monkeys and snakes. This alludes to the media's role as a mouthpiece of the party. The Chinese term for mouthpiece is hoshi and is a homophone for monkey snake. Fortunately, this one hasn't still been removed. Censoring is very common in China. For example, in 2018 I had planned an art show, but at the last minute it has been delayed due to safety concerns and after threats made by the Chinese authorities regarding the artist. A very common method used by the Chinese government against artists, systematically silenced and censored.
In 2009, an anti-government protest spread throughout Hong Kong again. As it happened 5 years before, in 2014, the Hong Kongers demand more democracy. They also asked the abolition of the extradition law toward China and the chief executive Carrie Lam to step down, and they protested against the violent attacks suffered by the police. In this occasion, more than 1,000 Lennon walls covered in sticky notes appeared around the city of Hong Kong.
Immediately after the censoring of my art show, I disappeared for 6 months. Then I came back with a documentary about my story. It's called China's Artful Dissident, and in the film, for the first time, I decided to show the world my face. Revealing my own identity has been a crucial step in my life. I knew that revealing myself could have been a dangerous action, but I decided to be free and to become an activist showing who I really am, talking with people and making art. It has also been a symbolic action to remain in exile in Australia. On the anniversary of Tiananmen Square massacre in June 2019, my documentary was shown on Australian television, and a month later, on the 20th of July, I inaugurated a Lennon Wall in Melbourne.
As Badio Cao and the Hong Kongers took inspiration from my cousin in Prague, other cities have followed us. Around the world, in Toronto, Vancouver, Tokyo, Richmond, Berlin, and San Francisco, Lennon walls have sprung up and have become wall symbol of solidarity, love, peace, and democracy.